Yeah, namaskar viewers. Namaskar, Hare Krishna, and welcome to this new episode of Sattology. I have with me a great friend, teacher, guide, and a leader of the Hare Krishna community. All of you, or many of you, may not be knowing him. His name is His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami, and he's a teacher. He's a guide. He has been guiding a large community in India and has a tremendous following in UK, in US, Caribbean, and name it, in India as well. So we are going to discuss with him many things related to meditation, history, and dharma. And he was a banker in the past, and he had held so many important positions of management in the past. So it is a great honor to learn from him, hear him, and see some of his perspectives on the current affairs as well, since all of us are dealing in quarantine in this emergency pandemic. So without holding you on, I'll get on to welcome him on a call officially. Hare Krishna, Swamiji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Adi Guru Prabhu, for inviting me for this program. I'm happy to be with you and all your viewers.
Thank you. So one thing which over the years has struck me with you, that you have a very pleasing personality, and anyone who meets you once and they want to talk to you, reveal their heart to you. So what is that secret that that you possess, that everyone feels so attracted to you?
Well, I don't know about that. Perhaps you haven't met the others who want to stay away from me.
Yeah, I think that's your humility.
But I guess it's just being concerned about people, I guess, and relating to them in a way that they can find sensible and relatable.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I have heard your many classes which you have given over the years. And I find one thing common in all those classes is that you have been able to relate very closely to people. Even though they're very simple, but that's what people like to hear, and you're able to relate to that. So coming back to this cause of meditation, which has become a big industry in the US, and also as we are going through this pandemic, and this meditation has become a key area for strength for people. So what is the meditation that you recommend, and what people should do when they're in a crisis like this?
The word meditation really implies connecting with God. The word meditation is not a vague word that can mean so many things to so many people. Because meditation essentially is a process of focusing the mind, but it's usually used in a spiritual context. I mean, you could use the word in an everyday sense also by saying, I was meditating on today's problem. And so in that sense, you mean you're focusing. But when we speak of spirituality, then we are speaking of focusing the mind, not just on anything, but on God, on something that is sublime and spiritual. So meditation cannot be on something void. Meditation cannot be on just something vague and abstract, on just some light, or just about any object in the world, because these are many of the concepts of meditation that are prevalent in the world today. Uh, Even in the process of yoga, actually, the word meditation implies dhyan. And the purpose of Hatha Yoga is ultimately to come to the perfection of dhyan, which is meditation. And one starts off by yam and niyam, which is accepting certain rules and regulations in one's conduct, in one's daily life. And then gradually one performs some physical postures along with breathing techniques. And all of these things are intended to help one to focus the mind on God. That is dhyan. So then there are intensifying stages of dhyan. They're called by different terms. But essentially the process is to focus the mind on God. So there is a verse in the Shastra which says, Dhyanavasthita tat katena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha. So the word dhyan or meditation in the process of yoga is to focus the mind on God who's within the heart. So within the heart means the super soul, antaryami, one who resides within, in the antahakaran or inside the heart of the living entity. So it's not so easy in this day and age just to focus on the Lord in the heart, because we don't know who that Lord in the heart is. We don't know what he looks like and what does one do to meditate on him, etc. And this process of meditating on the Lord in the heart was especially recommended in the age that was called Satya or Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga. Krite yat dhyayato Vishnu. So the dhyan or the meditation in that age was on Lord Vishnu, who resides within the heart, the four-armed form of Lord Vishnu. And as the age moved on to the next, Treta Yuga, then you had Tretayam Yajato Makhaihi, where you had to perform very elaborate yajnas, fire sacrifices, which were also meant for pleasing Lord Vishnu. Yajno Vai Vishnu. So that was the process in that age. And Dvapare Yajito in Dvapare Paricharyayam, so in the age of Dwapar Yuga, which was the next age, there was the process of elaborate worship of the deity of the Lord in the temple. Now in Kali Yuga, which is the present age, the age of quarrel, none of these three things are really possible in any meaningful way, because we don't have the mental and physical capacity to sit in meditation for long periods. We don't have that capacity to renounce the world and perform austerities by living in the forest all alone, eating roots and berries. Those things are just not possible. The mind is so agitated, so restless, especially in this day and age, that this process of silent meditation on Lord Vishnu, although an authorized and authentic process, is not very recommended for the people of this age. Similarly, to perform sacrifices, etc., is also very, very difficult, because for one thing, you don't get enough ghee from cows. There aren't enough cows left anyway. And to get ghee from cows is extremely difficult, even for your cooking. What to speak of using tons and tons of ghee to pour as oblations in a fire sacrifice is just not possible and available in this age. And neither do we have those kinds of brahmanas or priests who can chant all the required mantras and who know all the minute details of every ritual and so on. So that's not possible. And then as far as elaborate worship of the deity is concerned, that also is very difficult, because building a large temple and then maintaining it, ensuring a very high standard of worship of the deity with elaborate offerings and so on, is very difficult, because it takes a lot of money to do that. And only perhaps a few institutions can manage to do something like that. But for the common person, it's very hard. So therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Kalo tad Hari Kirtanad, that in this day and age in Kali Yuga, the same benefit that was achieved in the previous ages by meditation, performance of sacrifices, and by elaborate worship of the deity can be achieved merely by the process of Hari Kirtan. Hari is Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Kirtan means to glorify. Kirtayati. Kirti means glory.
Yes.
So to chant the glories of Lord Hari or Lord Krishna by reciting his pastimes, his messages as in the Bhagavad Gita, and hearing his pastimes as in Srimad Bhagavatam, and also chanting his names. And specifically in this age of Kali, the process of congregationally chanting the names of Lord Krishna is recommended as the topmost meditation. It's the easiest, most sublime, and most effective way of focusing the mind on God. So the auditory sense, the ears, are the most important things for us more than the eyes. So we have to meditate through the ears.
Yes. No, you made a very fabulous point, and it's going to logically resound in many people. But today's society is divided in dogmas. Like there is a dogma, it's a very ritual-driven, dogmatic society where sometimes the brain is kept outside, and the meditation is thought of a very vague topic. Now, you explained meditation very, very nicely in a very scientific way. So my question to you is, so for a person who is just starting on this process or coming to Sanatana Dharma, Krishna consciousness, or colloquially we call it Hinduism, from a background, and I'm even talking about the Indians who have never been coming to this area. So for these new people, how do they can begin that process of meditation in their personal lives?
It's very simple actually. It just needs the right company. If you want to get familiar with any subject or excel in a particular field, then the easiest way to do that is to keep company of those who are absorbed in that activity and who have experienced the ways of that activity. And in Sanskrit, it is called satsang. Satsang. Sat means the truth, that which is eternal, and that's the title of your program, Sattology, right? Sat. So I presume that Sat indicates the same thing. And logos, by the way, means science. So what I presume you mean by your title is the science of the truth.
Correct. Science of the truth.
Yes, Sattology.
Right. That's right.
So we need Sat Sangha. Sangha means the company or the association, and Sat means the truth. So the most important thing is to somehow or the other get connected to those who are seriously devoted to the process of Krishna consciousness or Sanatana Dharma, and then it becomes very easy.
Yes.
So this is the one most important thing that we can do.
So one of the arguments, so like you put it very correctly, Sattology means the science of the truth, and another the meaning of it is an antonym of mythology, which is the science of the myth, which is imaginary. So when we say Ramayana and Mahabharata, so there are many things in the US. There are a lot of closet Hindus. So they are practicing. They have love for Shiva, they love for Ganesha, and they have love for Krishna also, but they don't express themselves because there is a general propaganda that there are no books of Hindus. And when we look at our scriptures, then we have Ramayana, we have Mahabharata, we have Srimad Bhagavatam, we have Bhagavad Gita, like books. We have so many books that others cannot even count. So when we say meditation on something, and people, you put it correctly, meditation on Krishna and Vishnu, But can there be a chance that people who are not maybe educated about Krishna or Vishnu as a source of all, can they meditate on Ganesha or Shiva or something like that? Because when they come to Hinduism, the most common deity for the Americans is the elephant god, Ganesha. And can that be a beginning step for them to move over to understand more deeper?
Well, I think it is essential to study and understand the Bhagavad Gita first.
Correct.
Then one gets a complete picture of what is what. One time I heard an interesting definition of who a devotee of God is, a genuine devotee of God. That a genuine devotee is one who knows who is who and what is what. So there are many divinities, all of whom are worthy of our respect and our adoration. And we should never disrespect them because that would be quite offensive. At the same time, there is a hierarchy that is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So when we study the Bhagavad Gita, we understand the hierarchy. Uh, Lord Krishna explains that he is the origin, Aham Adir Hi Devanam. I am the source of all the devatas. Now the devatas, like Lord Ganesh, for example, are very exalted personalities. And they are certainly not to be compared to human beings by any means. They're extraordinarily powerful, extraordinarily elevated, and they've been placed in positions that are so high that we cannot even think of it. Uh, but they are ultimately not the supreme. They are agents of the Supreme Lord. Lord Ganesh, for example, is tasked with removing inauspiciousness from our life, removing obstacles from one's life. Now, when Lord Ganesh is faced with his worshippers, he encounters many types of worshippers. One type of worshippers are those who do not have a clear spiritual understanding about this hierarchy. And they worship Lord Ganesh thinking him to be the supreme, or perhaps not knowing even who is supreme or who is not. But they pray to Lord Ganesh for some material benefits. They want some impediments from their path of material progress to be cleared. So then Lord Ganesh reciprocates with them because that is the mood in which they have approached him. However, a devotee of Lord Krishna also will approach Lord Ganesh. But he will approach Lord Ganesh not with a materialistic motive. He will not go to Lord Ganesh and say, please remove the obstacles in my path to getting my business contract. Or please remove my obstacles from the path of getting a good husband or a good wife, or from becoming a famous person, or from winning the elections, or whatever it may be. So a genuine spiritualist or a devotee will certainly try to be very respectful to and please Lord Ganesh. And he will approach Lord Ganesh as well. But he or she will approach Lord Ganesh and say, please remove the obstacles in the path of my devotion to Lord Krishna. So that will please Lord Ganesh very much.
Now,
And he will then bestow his heartfelt blessings.
coming back to your own personal life, little bit, and we're going to continue this series. And the thing which comes to my mind is a meditation on Ram as one of the next interviews. That how we can bring that forth, meditation on Bhagwan Ram. So, is there any funny episode in your life which had really uh, when you see the confusion of many of the communities, any funny incident comes to your mind when somebody asked you a question on your that why you did not marry, and why you gave up that position, and you accepted a renounced order of life. So that will inspire our viewers a lot.
Well, funny. Well, this is a topic of much humor. So, uh, well, I think I'll not get into the humor part of it. Uh, but I'll just say that uh, I did not enter into the Grihastha ashram, or the state of married life, because I wanted to dedicate all my time and energy for the service of Lord Krishna, for the pursuit of Sanatana Dharma, for the practice and propagation of this process. And I saw that there are so many people who are living in family life, and there is also need for those living in renounced life.
Absolutely.
And secondly, that if one were to enter household life, then a great deal of time and energy would be taken away in uh, many other distractions of this world, social responsibilities, and even earning a livelihood, and so on and so forth, working in a job or a business. And that would not leave as much time for this as I'm able to get now. Now I can devote all my time for this.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
this question is for the viewers, that why he has kept an orange dress. And the viewers, the purpose is that the dress which Swamiji is wearing represents a renounced order of life, and that is given the very highest respect. It's a choice. It's not a force. It's a choice being made, and that really that is for us actually as people who are in other professions, so that the Swamiji is a guide to all of us when we are working our daily lives. So coming back to the last question that we have for this session is Swamiji, what is so you explained about the devas and you explained about the Bhagavad Gita, and there is sometimes a question which comes to all of us, that how can you prove that Ramayana and Mahabharata and our history and Itihas, which is practically they're practically written off by the entire Western academic situation system as a prehistoric. That means need not be studied. And I was speaking with the head dean of the department studies of one of the major universities on the East Coast, and practically they completely rule out Ramayana as mythology, and our contention is that should be Sattology. So, what is one message that we can send to them? Because this video will go to many people on the East Coast as well. What we can say that how the authenticity of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other things from the non-devotional perspective be told to them, non-devotional, because they consider us as us as the devotees of Ram, and somehow the word devotee has become a bad word. But what message we can tell them, and so that we, in a short message to them.
well, it's hard to just say it in a few words, uh, but we can see this at two levels. At one level, it's a question of faith, but it is not blind faith. It is faith that is based on very sound reasoning and understanding of something very sublime, the Vedic knowledge. When one understands the nature of spiritual knowledge and how it is revealed from time to time, when one looks at texts like the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam and the Upanishads, one understands how exalted and pure they are. Then one tends to have faith that what they are saying is true. So that is how faith develops, by a deeper and deeper impartial look at what the scriptures say when it is received in a bona fide disciplic succession. So that is a gradual process by which we develop that faith. So that's one part of it. At another level, nowadays people are always looking for empirical evidence. Seeing is believing is a dictum. So they say that because they don't find any empirical evidence for Mahabharata or Ramayana and so on, therefore they refuse to believe that such things are truth and they think it's mythology. Now, on that platform, there are many, many things. There is archaeological evidence. For example, in Dwarka, in the sea, they have found so many archaeological artifacts and monuments and so on that are submerged there. Of course, for a devotee who has faith, these other types of evidences don't make that much of a difference because our faith is not dependent on empirical evidence.
Right.
But for those whose faith is weak or who do not have faith, and perhaps who would need this empirical evidence to strengthen their faith, I'm suggesting that there are these archaeological evidences and so on. And there's another interesting type of empirical evidence that I would like to present in brief today, which was presented, now many scholars have done it, but there's a professor of physics, he's retired now, an Indian professor of physics in America. And he took a software, a planetarium software, and he applied it to all the different events and dates that were mentioned in the Mahabharata, particularly wherever the positions of the stars and the constellations and the planets were mentioned, the configurations. At numerous instances, the planetary positions and configurations are mentioned. Just like we would say such and such episode happened in 1945 on June 30th. So for important events, they would describe when such and such planet was in this constellation, and when this moon was in this constellation, the sun was in this constellation, and such planets they were together in the same constellation, and so on. So there are many such astrological or astronomical, I should say, references.
Mm-hmm.
So he has put together a list of such references, number one. Number two, he has also then studied the time difference between certain episodes as mentioned in the text itself. For example, from the time the Battle of Kurukshetra ended till the time the Pandavas retired and went into the forest and Lord Krishna departed, it was about approximately 36 years.
Yes.
35 to 36 years.
Yeah.
So then, now there are planetary configurations mentioned at the time of the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra. There are also planetary configurations mentioned at the time when the Pandavas retired into the forest, when Krishna also disappeared from this world. So the time frame as mentioned in the text itself.
Right.
And from the planetarium software, you bring out the list of all the possible dates when all these configurations could have happened.
Yes.
Say the one set of configurations when certain planets was in a certain constellation, you find all the possible dates in the last whatever number of years when that was there. Similarly, for the next one, you find all the possible dates. And then you compare these things to find out which ones have a gap of 36 years, right? And then you'll find, and all these different softwares come up with exactly very, very similar ideas. There are some differences. So it shows that this is not just some hoax, because obviously when Vyasadeva wrote the Mahabharata, he didn't concoct these configurations.
Right.
He didn't think that after 5,000 years, people are going to come up and test it out. So I better give them a configuration that was valid at this time, at such and such time. So by checking out this, you can actually precisely point out into the Mahabharata war happened, and so on and so forth. So this is a very interesting form of verification, and there are numerous other such things.
No,
Well,
my
this was just a brief comment on this. Very interesting.
no, we will definitely. I wrote my first book, Sattology, Debunking Mythology, which I have put all these dates out, and so we will definitely cover this in detail next time. But one thing I must tell to my viewers that the Vedic sciences are very scientific, and they have a proven track record in helping us in every possible way. And because they have a proven track record, so they cannot be mythology. So the entire mythology business and propaganda against the Vedic culture or the Hinduism or whatever you call me, Krishna consciousness, Sanatana Dharma is all fake. And we can debunk that. Now, for all of us viewers, and I really thank you for seeing this session. There are more to come. We'll work on meditation on Ram, meditation on Shiva, meditation on Ganesh, and in keeping in mind the Vedic or the message of core Bhagavad Gita. And still then, keep watching Sattology and see more historical discussions. And shortly, you'll see a lot of proof on existence of Mahabharata and also a lot of other proofs which are already there. And thank you, Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, for your wonderful talk and your pleasing personality.
Thank you.
I'm sure the viewers will again will start following you more in big numbers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would applaud your initiative to spread Sanatana Dharma everywhere. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.